Hi. Well, we seem to be here. Here being Fenway Park, specifically me being in front of the fabled Green Monster, where instead of the number of runs the teams are scoring, it says.
Hello.
Now I'm not. David, hello. Are you
Yeah,
there?
I see you. Yeah, I'm getting you.
Okay, good.
You were breaking up a little bit, but mostly there.
Yeah, it seems a little wonky with reception today, but it's an adventure.
It is a little wonky, but we're improvisational people here, and we're having fun having you out in the field. And I think the entertainment value of your remote feed is well worth any inconvenience it might be. See, you just dropped out again. I may have to soldier on without you. Let me run down the set list and see if Gary can catch up with me online here. They begin with Samson and Delilah, Cold Rain and Snow into Jack Straw, Althea, Comes a Time, Mr. Charlie into He's Gone, into Going Down the Road Feeling Bad. And Gary can't attest to the magnificence of Nug. Oh, we just lost him altogether there. Oh, now we're getting him back again. I'm going to ignore him for the time being and talk about Nug's Net.
Yep.
Because I'm sitting here at home watching this thing with a couple of dear friends from the comfort of our living room, eating kettle corn, waiting for takeout food. And the camera work is just astonishingly good. The audio is spectacular. And we're sitting, and my friend Howard said, "Well, look, it's great to see the drummers." Because when you went to a Dead show, you could never see the drummers. They were behind all that hardware and stuff. So, in a way, the Nugs Net feed is an advantage over being at the venue because you only get one point of view at the venue.
True. Now, are you hearing me now? Am I popping in and out?
Yeah, yes, and yes, and yes.
Okay, well, still a few bugs in the system. Everything was so flawless yesterday.
I actually think it's kind of great that your messed up feed from wherever the hell you are makes Nugsnet look even better because I'm sitting here checked in from home and it's like, I'm comfortable. I've got food and beverage and stuff, and you're out there risking life and limb in a place where there's barely any internet coverage.
Which is strange because I'm using the band's internet. I'm not using the venue's internet. To be a fool.
I think it might be.
And I'm just the fool.
I can't tell whether he can see me or not. I think we should probably just introduce the pre-recorded piece and get on with it.
You betcha.
Yeah? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Gary Lambert, enjoy the rest of the show. We're going to listen to an interview we recorded with Mark Dincus. He's the head of Rhino Records, Warner Music. And it turns out he's a big old deadhead, too, from way back. So we had a great time talking with him. We've talked with him on Dead Air several times before. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. When it's over, we're going to go back to that please stand by card and audience sounds until the band returns to the stage. Uh-oh, now I've frozen, too. This could be the end.
Okay, well, we are always happy to talk to someone who has been an important part of our community, especially in terms of getting the vast treasure trove of archival Grateful Dead music out to the people. He's the president of Rhino Records and really specializes in the Grateful Dead end of things, although he has many other tasks as well. Always a pleasure to welcome Mark Dincus. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Gary. Hey, David. Always a treat to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. And I just keep feeling that it's just such a nice thing that it turned out that a deadhead wound up at the top of the company. It's not that Rhino and Warner's weren't run by music people for all those years, but it's really nice to have a guy that this is one of your main things, running the show. It's like we've got a friend in a high place,
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And yes, the Grateful Dead is always front and center at Rhino. And if you just look at the number of releases we do every year, that proves that point out. It's a great time to be a deadhead.
Boy, is it ever. We should make a distinction. David said Warner's. Warner Music is now a freestanding entity unto itself, not part of the what's it called now? Warner Discovery, all that. You never know who's going to swallow up a company next, but the fact that Warner Music is its own entity is not insignificant given the volatility of corporate life and the fact that something like Rhino might be the first thing on the chopping block. I've been thinking about Turner Classic Movies being in jeopardy, and Rhino's kind of the Turner Classic Movies of record companies. This incredible curatorial integrity, that's really about preserving the art. So thank you, Warner Music, for spinning off.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a lot going on. As we record this, we're in the middle of the 2-day meetup at the movies, and the reports from last night are very positive. For people had a great time everywhere, including our friend in Norway who posted a nice photo.
Yes, Morton was there.
And
it's great.
And you've got this amazing box set coming out next Friday, the Here Comes Sunshine 1973, which, I mean, you guys have been on an amazing roll these last several years. And this is even more amazing than the last bunch's releases. So I'm thrilled.
1973 appears to be a really, really special year amongst the fans. When we put out last year's box, the Madison Square Garden box set, which won a Grammy, it looked beautiful. Got a great response from people my age, people that grew up in the 80s seeing them, but then it tends to be a little bit more of a polarizing, and the younger fans that have come on board haven't quite gravitated in the same way. But when we announced the 1973 box set, we hadn't had a first day response like that in ages, and it's coming out this Friday. It's 17 discs, and it's just about sold out. So
wow,
congratulations. So we haven't sold out a CD box set prior to release date in years, and it feels like this is going to be a close one. I think it may happen.
It's such a wonderful collection of shows. I mean, I was at one of them, which is always nice, when you guys release something that includes a show I was at, that's a really good feeling. I had that experience with the Pacific Northwest 73, 74. I was at Portland in 74. So it's extra cool for people to get a box set that includes a show they were at.
No, without a doubt. And these two, the RFK Stadium show, which is also a breakout show on an 8 LP box set and 4 CD set, that show alone, it reminds me a little bit of the Lyceum show that we broke out from the Europe 72. It's just one of these perfect shows from start to finish, and you just turn it on and it goes on and on for 4 hours, and you're just blown away. It's about as much fun as you can have listening to the Grateful Dead. So I'm really excited about this one.
That's so great. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on the physical thing. The packages are always so beautiful. That's another great thing about Rhino. You have not reduced everything to a little audio file that someone downloads. A box set is a box set with liner notes, annotations, all of that. And I appreciate that so much. 1973 is such a historically important year for the Grateful Dead. First of all, they left the other Warners to start their own record company. And that was, they blazed a trail in indie record companies that probably in some sense manifested itself in Rhino as well. People loving music, running the show, running a record company.
Without a doubt. And it's interesting to take it all full circle, because when I talk to the guys, they love being on Rhino. They get who Rhino is, and they feel like there's a symbiosis between Rhino and the Grateful Dead. So it's great.
It's really a fascinating story. Rhino started out as a record store in LA, and then they started doing these amazing compilations. In my music journalism days in the 70s and 80s, I would get these amazing things, like they do a vinyl record of the saddest songs ever written, and it came with a Kleenex hanging out the front and stuff like that. Hugh Brown was the king of the universe in those days. And so you guys did so many amazing things. And now it's become like a real record label that's doing like new stuff and managing these incredible archives and all. So you got a big thing going here.
Yeah, so we've evolved. We do a lot with Fleetwood Mac, Eagles, Led Zeppelin. There's Stevie Nicks. We have a beautiful Stevie Nicks complete box set coming out. So it's fun to work with all of these artists. But yes, the Dead is the one that we constantly are coming back to every year. There's a box set. hard to believe we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of all these releases. So we did History of Bear's Choice earlier in the year that's still available. And there is another 50th coming up this year. Hasn't been announced yet, but it's pretty obvious what it will be. And we're
Wake
super
of
excited.
the Flood. I can't wait. Such a great record.
It is a great record. And one of the reasons that I'm so into this 50th anniversary is I'm really trying to get people to re-listen to these studio albums. So many people like to say that this is a live band and you don't get it if you just listen to the studio records. And I'm a huge fan of the studio albums, going all the way back to when I started seeing the band in the 80s. And that's what I got. Then I got Europe 72 and I was like, ah. And then I got the Cornell tape and I'm like, whoa, this is what it really is about. But these 13 studio records, to me, are underappreciated classics.
I'm totally with you on that, Mark. Jerry had a tendency to underestimate himself and to denigrate his own work and stuff. And everybody who ever made a record walks out of the studio going, well, I could have done a little more. It should, wasn't quite perfect. So they've sort of, in a way, had this habit of kind of bad-mouthing their own work, and it sort of became part of the legend of the Grateful Dead that the studio albums weren't where it's at. But I'm totally with you. The songs, as songs, are brilliant, and they did a pretty damn fine job of recording them.
That's exactly right. And I feel like that singer-songwriter, the quality of the tunes gets lost a little bit, that if you're not into a 12-minute Eyes, then you miss out on it because you're not listening to that condensed 3-minute version. And I think both of them stand up. They're very different pieces of art, and I think these studio recordings are terrific.
Yeah, there was a level of creative ambition in the Dead at that point. The Weather Report Suite was like so unlike anything Bob Weir had attempted before. And I've always loved the demo of him doing it solo and not having lyrics for the first part. But I've talked to him about that, especially now in the era of Wolf Bros, when he's working with horn players and all that. And Bobby just helped craft those horn and string arrangements on the studio Weather Report Suite by just singing parts to the horn players, and they would play it, and then he'd say, okay, now you go up here and play this harmony. And people who worked with him on that were just amazed. It's like, this is a 25-year-old kid, something like that. And he had such a vision of what he wanted to do. And now he's realizing that all these years later, and it's so gratifying to see him doing that.
I was talking with another musician about Bobby's songwriting and stuff, and he has a tendency to, his stuff sort of might feel a little overworked. Remember when Picasso Moon entered the repertoire, it wasn't really finished. And that was true of a couple of songs. He would evolve them as he went, but what the musician was saying was, and when he brings his stuff in, it seems a little awkward at first, but then when you get used to it, it all works perfectly. Like there's a little extra 2 beats here, what the hell's that doing in there? And then when you know the song, it's like, yep.
Right. The Bobby tunes take you a moment to appreciate it. Yeah. Even Victim or the Crime, when you first heard that, it was a little bit of an assault. And then you've come to really, really appreciate it. And that's a special one for me with the band.
We have to also put in a good word for the good old Grateful Dead cast, because everybody should be listening to it. I've been saying for several years now that the best book about the Grateful Dead isn't a book. It's that podcast. It goes into such great depth. And the current season, which is all about 73 and this boxed set and the material that was released in that year, it's just great. And I just want to tell everybody watching this that they should tune in and listen to every episode of the good old Grateful Dead cast, because it's magnificent.
Right. And not many people may realize that that's a product of the same team. It's the folks at Rhino who put their weight behind this and got Jesse and Rich. So Rhino is not just a record company. It's a media company that is really interested in fostering a greater understanding of the Grateful Dead and really delivering the goods in a big way.
No, I appreciate you guys saying that. I mean, the podcast is great. And when you get this box set, as always, there's a big book that covers the whole box. And then there's one for each of the 5 shows. But you finish the notes and you just want to hear more. And that's where the podcast really comes in. Then you get this hour analysis from Jesse Jarno talking to people that were there and getting the full picture. So yes, it really complements this
Yeah,
box set.
brilliantly.
Right.
And it's great fun to hear old friends. I mean, I hear my own voice in it all the time because I've been sending them material, but it's really fun to hear. Like my old friend Mike Dolgushkin is one of the major informants at one of the episodes this season. And it's just really fun to hear people telling their stories from back in the day. It's just great. I just have to gush about it.
Yeah, I love their tagline. They say the world of the Grateful Dead for the curious and the committed. I think they should extend that to say for the hopelessly obsessed like us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's been a great labor of love. We make absolutely nothing on it. We've had no sponsorship. We don't sell it. We just feel like the storytelling that goes along with the Dead is so important, and that we just feel the podcast has really continued that.
I agree with you, and I beg you to protect that line item in your budgets as much as possible going forward. Don't let any bean counter decide it's not good. Because it is.
The advantage of being president.
Oh my God, we're taking the meeting here. Mark, one thing I want to talk about. We talked about this a little bit at Cornell, where I was delighted to see you, and I was also talking to Bernie from the band's management about we're coming to this interesting inflection point where this one large manifestation of the Grateful Dead is ending, or I would say rather, preparing for the next beginning, whatever that's going to be. And I'd really love to see like this kind of synergy between the people who are managing the legacy and also fostering a living legacy. And do you have thoughts about how that's going to be going forward in the post Dead and Company era?
Yeah, I mean, first I think we should stop and just recognize how amazing this band is playing on this tour. And it started at Cornell. I wasn't in New Orleans, but from Cornell on to the LA shows to everything I've seen, I can't wait for the 3 Boulder shows I'll be at in San Francisco. But this band's on fire every night.
It is, truly. Yeah.
So to have, I mean, to me, it reminds you of like Sandy Koufax retiring at 27 when he's still playing amazing. I mean, this is a band at the very, very top of its game, deciding, and John talked about it, I know in a previous interview, is like, why not walk out the way that we want to? I can't wait to see how all of these players evolve. There's no way we don't get to still hear Jeff, now the advantages that he plays with Bob as part of the new Wolfpack. But I think the scene is just going to continue to change and evolve. All of these fans aren't going home. And all of this came out of 2015 Chicago. I think you were both there for Fare Thee Well. Yeah. And you felt this moment all of a sudden get reignited. We haven't felt like 2015 Soldier Field. We hadn't had that feeling since arguably the late 80s, early 90s.
That's very true. And it seemed like everybody came there planning to have one last fond farewell. And instead it turned out to be a reigniting of their tribal gatherings. And it's just moved forward since. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great. I was back at Wrigley. I saw you, Gary, briefly at the Wrigley show. And even that was fun. Having gone to all the shows down in Mexico, we met this nice couple in Mexico, became friends with them. I stayed at their house before the Chicago show because that's where they live. And now we're going to all meet up in Boulder. So that whole vibe of meeting people at shows, it is alive and well and in playing out in our adult world. It's great.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see what's next, but I'm excited to have more Wolf Bros. I mean, Bobby's never going away, and I don't think any of these players are. I mean, they're all going to be playing Dead music.
Oh, yeah.
David, I saw you at Skull and Roses where we saw Teal and Friends, and they blew me away. And he's got a new album coming out that is going to be really, really special. I've heard it, and it's amazing. It's breathtakingly good. So I can't wait for the world to get that one. So a lot more Dead music coming.
Do you, you don't have a vote in how they decide to go forward, but I imagine they listen to the record label when, and at least seek your input on, I mean, I'm not suggesting that you're going to persuade them to keep playing or anything, but, are you guys a factor in decisions made by the artists?
We tend to just coast along of whatever's happening. We're basically riding shotgun. So when there's a Fare Thee Well, we released the Fare Thee Well. We did a bunch of stuff starting at that point. And then around Dead and Company, we have the rights to the Dead and Company's music outside of Nugs. So when you go to Spotify or Amazon or Apple and you can listen to all these Dead and Company shows, all the past tours. We get them up about 4 months after the tour. You can hear everything. So that's our role. And whatever comes next, we'll do. We'll celebrate. And I'm excited about it. I think that these artists, and especially Bob, Mickey, Bill, Phil, those four have earned the right to do whatever the hell they want. And we're in no position to tell them. And us as fans, just enjoy it. There's sometimes a bit too much complaining online. Just enjoy it. Be thankful that we got these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey has been blowing my mind consistently on this tour. He's put so much thought and thematic effort into the drums every night. Right. And I was talking to a friend after one of the Wrigley shows, and he said, man, Mickey could be taking just the drum segment, maybe with some augmenting musicians, and he could be headlining like any electronic festival, but he's very much in the realm of the avant-garde, and he's in the realm of world music. And so Mickey's possibilities just seem incredibly, broad. And, I'm so excited about that. People tell me they're so sad about Dead and Company ending. I'm saying, man, it's just the next crossroads. Phil had that great eloquent line at Fare Thee Well about it. Said that this is not a terminus, it's a crossroads, and it is proven absolutely true. And Bobby several times over the decades has said to me, hell, we're just getting started. And I absolutely have that sense and have utter faith that is the truth.
Right. I think this is an exciting time, rather than us just knowing that, all right, it would be great if we could all see him again at Boulder and LA, et cetera. But next year, what are we going to do? What are we going to see? Where are we going to see him? Who's playing? Who's doing what? I'm super excited about it. And you just got 6 people on stage that are just playing the Grateful Dead music at the highest level that it has ever been played.
Yeah,
totally agree.
I totally agree. And with that, we have run out of time. We have to stop this and go back to the stage for set 2 of tonight's Dead and Company show from Fenway Park. And we thank you so much for your time, Mark, and for all the amazing creativity you have put into our culture.
Absolutely. My pleasure, guys. Thanks so much for talking to me. Can't wait to go listen to the second set.
Always great to see you, my friend.
Take care. See you soon. Bye.
Here we go now, sailing up and down, looking for a show in some direction. Guiding from the top, nothing you can stop. Lord, you know they made a fine connection. They love each other. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that's true. He could pass us up around some other night, but you know he tells this place beside him. Don't get on the road, there's nothing you can say, nothing that you need to out of the but they love each other. Lord, you can see that it's true. Lord, you can see that's true. Lord, you can see that it's true. when that ship comes in, you won't know where it's been. Got to try to see